everybody? Welcome back to the Godly Gains podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and today we have a very special guest. This is one of my best friends from literally first grade, my homie Ryan.
What's going on, everyone? The special guest, that's cool.
Special guest, yeah, man, special guest.
He says that about everyone that comes in.
I think you're our second guest.
I think it's, I was looking at the channel,
You know, elephant, well, actually, I'm not going to be calling my wife an elephant. I was about to say elephant in the room. Yeah. No, but obviously, Naomi's not with us today, guys. Unfortunately, she had to work. But, you know, Ryan and I had planned this, and we just decided to do a duo podcast. So we're going to get into some stuff. We don't really know what we're going to get into. We're going to let the spirit speak. But I really wanted to bring Ryan on this podcast because, you know, Ryan has been one of my best friends since literally first grade. Yeah. We had first grade together, right? Miss Severa.
Yes, Severa.
And Miss Severa and Miss Green. Yeah, exactly. Didn't she have like an assistant, Miss C? Or was that a different teacher?
It was a different teacher.
That was a different teacher? Yeah. But anyway, you know, Ryan and I have been hooligans our whole entire life. And we never spoke about God ever until these past year. You know, I've seen that you've been getting into your faith, and that made me really happy because it was like, I know that when I first joined, I'm a new kid in this school, and that's the kind of vibe I felt. But then when I saw one of my homies jump on board, I'm like, oh, like it felt like I was going to a new school, and I found out Ryan was also coming with me. You know, so like that was really cool, man. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's talk about how, like, when we first met, right? We went to Walnut Elementary in Baldwin Park.
Literally down the street.
Literally down the street. Yeah. That was the other crazy thing. We lived on the same street block, too.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
That's funny because I always think about there. You know, when you have a friendship.
Bring the mic closer, dude. Yeah.
Like when you have a friendship that you have for so long. I always think about this one time. Well, there's always like core memories that pop up in your head, right? But I think about this one time, man, and it's not even when we were kids. It was like when we disconnected for a long period of time, which is kind of cool. We've been able to stay friends for a very long time.
Yeah,
and always sort of had like that little.
There's always been that
seasons. Yeah, seasons where we don't talk, and then we come back and we're talking and we have a lot to say. But there's one time you came to my dad's apartment, and I opened up the door and the fog came through, and it looked like you looked like Captain America because you had been working out for several months. I was like, what's going on? What'd you do? Like, this isn't you. So and I felt like you grew like 3 inches on me, man. Yeah. I always remember that one time, that specific time, whenever like we connect or when I talk about you, I always say that story.
That's so funny, dude. You've never told me that story. That's funny.
I never told you that. Yeah, I never told you that. But anytime anyone asks about like you, or like I bring you up in a conversation, I say, oh yeah, my good friend Michael, and like I remember this one time he came back and he looked like Captain America, man. I was like, he went away for a long time, and he said all he ate was Little Caesars. And to this day, I think all you do is eat.
I still eat Little Caesars. Yeah, I still eat Little Caesars. My brother-in-laws get pissed at me all the time because they're not allowed to eat that. My wife got them on a plan, so when I come over and I have like a whole ass pizza, they're just like, what are you doing? Yeah, dude, Little Caesars. Damn, dude. Yeah, man, we had a lot of memories, and you do, it is true. I feel like you and I, we had both of our journeys, and it was just like constantly meeting together. But one of the things that I've always loved and cherished about our friendships, I don't think we've ever had this posture of like, nah, I'm not going to talk to him like he hasn't talked to me. It was like the moment we saw each other, it's like, yo, how are you been, bro? Like, how are you doing?
Yeah, right? Which is pretty cool.
And I don't have many friendships like that. That's why, you know, you're always gonna have a piece of my heart because I know that's what our friendship is, bro.
Yeah, it's sort of it's like a beautiful thing, huh? Like that's how you know you're truly friends with somebody. You're truly meant to be really good friends with somebody because you can go through those seasons of not communicating at all, and then come back and then just have so much to talk about, and then it really brings us to this point now. Right here, right?
Yeah, like, dude, we're still friends as we're adults, and it's that same feeling of like when we were kids. And I think we also related a lot too, man, because I know you have sisters, but like you grew up with your pops, so you were technically like an only child, and so was I. So I was gravitated towards you, man. We went to the same elementary school, same middle school, same high school. Like, dude, we've always been around. And you know what's crazy? Like, even in high school, we were in different
Yeah.
friend groups.
Yeah.
But like
Band for you.
yeah.
Band and all that other crazy stuff.
And then
I
you
was
were
just
in
like,
choir and with
play
the drama club.
production.
Yeah,
So
dude.
we were both busy on both ends of, because I know how serious band was for
Yeah.
you guys. I
And
think
it
it's
was
just-
so funny too, because like I know that there would be times where like you and I would say what's up to each other, and people would be like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "That's my homie Ryan."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, "This is my best friend since like first grade." Like,
You guys
but
never talk. You guys
but
never
when
hang out.
when people would see us talk to each
Yeah.
other, like, "That's weird."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, this is not weird at all. This is
Yeah.
what we do. We've
Yeah.
been doing this."
It's
yeah.
pretty cool. So
that's cool,
now
man.
we're going to Christ University.
Christ University, bro.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So we're sort of meeting like in these cool times that, you know, just sort of bring us, like, it's like a weave.
Yeah.
We're being woven.
So going on the Christ thing, bro. Like, I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
First grade, were you born with? Did your parents at all like ever push any kind of religion on you at all?
No.
No?
So it's kind of funny, and so first off, I always thought that you were gonna ask me to do this.
Really?
To be on the podcast,
Really?
yeah. And because I know you and Nay were doing just you two,
Yeah.
and I was like, eventually they're gonna have people on the
Yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
And then you brought another guest over, and I was like, okay, cool. He's gonna start, inviting people, into
Yeah.
the podcast. I was like, man, one day he's gonna like
Absolutely.
hit me up about it. And so when you text me, I was actually with my other buddy Steven, and I go, Michael just asked me to be on his podcast. I knew
so
this was gonna
funny, bro.
happen. Yeah,
That's so
but
funny.
yeah, to answer your question, man, I've never been in like the church. My parents have never pushed any sort of religion on me.
Yeah.
My mom never pushed any religion on me.
Yeah.
Where I got a lot of my exposure from was from my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
And so she would take me to Vacation Bible School or VBS, and I would watch Veggie Tales and
Bro,
go.
I just found out that Veggie
Yeah.
Tales has biblical stories. In
Yeah,
it. That's
a
crazy.
long time ago, man. So I would do all that stuff, and I was very, very rarely involved in the church. Like I wouldn't go to church at all unless I was with them, or maybe it was just a random Sunday that we went. But for the most part, I didn't go to church even after high school. I went to I don't know if you remember this. During high school, we had like the Wednesdays, and they would take
Like a half day?
outreach.
No, I don't remember that.
There was like I forgot what they call it, something outreach.
Victory Outreach?
No, it was
No, that's
on
a church.
Wednesdays in high school, and they
Okay.
would bring pizza, and everyone used to
I
go. I don't know
didn't
if you
hear
know
about
this.
none of this.
Yeah, Pastor Raul Reese, he's the pastor over at Calvary Chapel, Golden Springs, and he would come in, and he's actually from BP.
Oh, damn, I didn't know that, dude.
I forgot. Student outreach
Okay.
in high school. So that was the only sort of involvement that I really had, and
Yeah.
I didn't. Now that I think about it, it's like I never really had a relationship with God, but I knew of him, but I didn't know his story. I
Did you
guess could
believe he
say.
existed?
Yeah.
Like you thought it was
Yeah.
real?
I would pray all the time.
I didn't, bro.
You didn't believe it?
I
Oh,
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
that?
I think when we were in elementary and middle school, I don't think I ever really gave it thought.
Yeah.
And God is talked about as much as it's talked. We know when we grow up, nobody talks about God, right? You actually kind of got made fun of if you talked about God,
True.
right? And then I think in high school, I started contemplating. I'm like, and then I was on the camp of. I know for a fact there was a point in my life where I considered myself an atheist,
Okay.
right? And I was like, yeah, there is no God.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I realized, well, that's a stupid stance because you're uneducated. So then I thought really hard about it, and I was like, well, I can't prove that there is, and I can't prove that there isn't. But I never gave a thought about like what God thinks about me, regardless. You know, so I was just moving through life, man. But that's interesting. I was interested about that because again, even though we've been boys for so long,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is something I didn't know about Ryan. I'm like, I wonder if Ryan had God in his life the whole
Yeah.
time. And I wanted to ask you that, like when we were playing pool.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
funny that you did think that eventually I was going to bring you on the podcast because I was like, yeah, that's a question I want to save for the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
so
that's a cool thing. We never talked about religion when we were growing up as kids, or even like
Nah,
in
bro.
high school or anything like that.
And there was never ever a point either where I think, I mean, to be honest, like we weren't like necessarily bad kids. Like whenever we would hang out, we'd be eating pizza and playing games and
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
you know? But I don't think we were ever in a situation where either of us had to call each other out and be like, well, what would God think in that
Yeah.
moment, you know? Like
Sure.
that conversation never existed between us either.
Yeah. I feel like we're just being kids.
Yeah, we were just being
doing-
kids stuck
yeah.
in the world,
Yeah.
you know, just entertainment.
Yeah,
That's all we
exactly.
were really doing. But yeah, man, so what drove you, man? What brought you to God? Like, I'm very interested in this.
Dude, let's see. Um, when I got, okay, so take it back. It all has to do around heartbreak, honestly. So like, let me just talk about this one. In like 2019, I broke up with a girl, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I found myself really unhappy. I was living in Palmdale at the time, and I was living sort of alone. And in case you haven't been to Palmdale, there's nothing out there.
Ain't nothing out there.
On Palmdale. Nothing to do on Palmdale. So I would go home and sit in my house, and there's nothing to do. No one's there.
You're like, dope house,
Yeah.
but there ain't nobody here. Yeah.
Nothing to do. Watch TV all day, right? And so I was like, man, I gotta do something different. I gotta start like saying yes to doing more things, and instead of saying no. And so I started to do more things. If you ask me something, I'll probably say yeah. Like that. I think a couple years from like in 2020 or something like that, I went to the Grand Canyon, and I watched the first sunrise and the last sunset of the new year.
Oh wow!
And I thought that was the coolest.
Wow,
The coolest
that's really
thing.
cool. Yeah.
So I just started to do more things, and then there was like this other girl. Her name is Kristen, and she invited me to church one day, and I sort of had a little bit of a liking to her, right? So I was like, okay, let's go to church. Let's do it, and we ended up going, and since then I would go every second Tuesday of the month. It was like young adults night, and then we started going Sundays, and I started picking up going to church, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never been the type to say like, oh, you need to go to church.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
It was a Christian church?
Christian church.
Okay.
Yeah. And I still don't feel that way because I don't go to church all the time.
Right.
I feel like you don't need to go to church, and some people do need to go to church. So I guess to each their own. For me, I don't need to go to church. I talk to God every day. I pray multiple times a day. I read the Bible,
Right.
and I feel like to me that's where I feel comfortable because that's where I've always been. Right. When we got out of high school, I would just pray every single night, and that's it. Back then I used to pray one time. Now I pray, all the time. But I feel like I've gotten closer with just doing my own thing instead of going to church. And that's not to say that I won't go to church. Somebody invited me to church. We went to church the last time, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody invited me to church. Great. I'll go to church. I'll even go by myself sometimes too.
Yeah.
And I tried doing that too. And I like that. I sit outside, sit to myself, and then I bring my Bible, and which I think was a very important part to do, is like bring your Bible. Because I found myself listening and looking at scriptures on the projection.
Yeah.
And like they don't really go over them; they just kind of have them up there. And so I always go back and I look at them, and if I like them, I'll highlight them. Type of thing. So
like a student, like a disciple.
like a little student there. Yeah. Just with no glasses though. Just that's all I would really do. I kinda like
what I'm picking up on is that like being secluded and alone kind of made you be like, it almost seems like you got what you wanted. You got your big house.
Yeah.
You had your Tesla at the time, and you're like, yo, there's still something that is kind of missing.
Yeah.
And I feel you on that, man.
Which is kind of interesting because, we look at celebrities, right?
Yeah.
Like today, we're like, oh, they have all this money, they have everything in the world. How can they be unhappy? Type of thing. And it really put that into perspective to me too, because I'm not this rich, wealthy, celebrity.
Right.
But
but you're very good. Like
Yeah.
as your homie, I've seen you how intelligent you've become when it comes to finances and the game of finances. You know what I mean? And I love that you're saying this because you're a testimony of like, it's meaningless compared to.
No, it really is. Like it's funny because when I sit alone, and I did this a lot a couple years ago. I would drive without no music. Diabolical, right? I mean, you don't drive with no music on or like
I've been
no
doing
podcast,
that recently,
right?
Yeah.
So I often think like one day if I just lost it all, or one day I just want to sell everything and go and just like leave. I'll take my money. I'll go somewhere else and I'll just live however I want to live.
Yeah.
I don't care. I really do not care about like the materialistic things, even though I do like nice things. It's good to have nice things, right? If you work very hard, I believe you should.
It's so funny, guys, because Ryan was always the kid. It's like Kobe ones came out, boom. Next day he's with them.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all remember, but there was these shoes that had spinners on them.
Oh yeah.
And those are the coolest
Yeah.
shoes you ever got, bro. Like those are, and
Yeah.
like it's so funny. I lived very vicariously through you because like you had all the cool stuff. Like you had the first PSP, the PlayStation Vita.
yeah.
You were the first person who introduced me to MacBooks.
Yeah.
You had the first PlayStations. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, Ryan has the first everything, right? And it's funny, man, because like you were the first one and always the one how always had to have the fresh iPhone
Yeah.
and as you've grown up, yeah, you're like it's just it's materialistic stuff. It's whatever.
My parents aren't rich. My
Yeah.
dad my dad did a really good job at raising me.
Yeah.
And I owe a lot to him, but he's not rich either. He just liked to
No.
give me, like he liked to. If I did really well in school, he'd just get me what I
Yeah,
liked,
man,
you
it's
know?
not like you're not a spoiled person. You
No.
earned everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
dad, I love your dad, bro.
Yeah.
Your dad raised a really fine young man and he kept you on point. And I think as much as your dad like spoiled you with gifts and the fact that you were an only child, like you were never a bad student.
Yeah.
Like you never took advantage of that.
Yeah.
Like you were never ungrateful. You were never mean to people. You never flaunted things in front of people and you never showboated either.
Yeah.
It was just, if anything, you got attention because you were the first kid to have
Yeah,
it.
the stuff. Yeah.
But you weren't like, look what I got.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like you whipped it out and be like, Ryan, you got an iPhone?
You got the new iPhone?
And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I love that sort of aspect about me because people do think that I'm well off or whatever the
Yeah.
case is, but I'm really not, man. And I actually, like I said, I really don't care about the materialistic things. But I do like buying stuff. Like
Yeah.
I do like having
Right.
the good looking things.
Yeah.
The good things.
So you've given your life to Christ, right? When did it start becoming like hella serious?
Oh, so I can tell you when. Yeah, last year in September.
Okay.
Like,
Recent.
'cause recently.
Yeah.
Recently. So I read the Bible, I did everything, and actually I started on the a Bible app.
Uh-huh.
And I did the new King James version, and it's
Hard.
like very hard,
Hard.
right? And I got through a lot of the books, but they start you off in Genesis, and they push you through, like basically they read you the Bible as it goes through.
Whomst.
Yeah. Thou, thee. And it keeps you engaged because you're just sort of listening to it,
Yeah.
and you're not really maybe absorbing a lot of the stuff.
Right.
But yeah, ever since September, and that's probably when I first really started to get into it. And it was the heartbreak thing, right? I went cold turkey because I felt like I was getting far from God during that last maybe 6 months before that.
What made you feel like you were going far?
I was just losing that connection with him because I was going prior to that. I was going to church. I would go to the church with my girlfriend at the time, and I felt like when we had church and God at our forefront, that we were doing fine, right? And we would go to church together, but then we started to have our problems, and then I started to fall apart too, and I would not go to church. I would not read the Bible. I got really far, and I feel like our problems got even worse.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of fell apart. So, in September, when we did finally cut it off, then that's when okay, I need to cut off all distractions. Like, Ryan, you've done this. You've had this pattern before. What are you gonna do different this time to make sure it sticks? And so I cut off everything. That's when I stopped drinking. That's when I wouldn't say stop drinking but I didn't drink for a long time.
It's not like you were drinking like a
Yeah,
hell of a lot.
I actually hadn't had a drink in a long time prior to my birthday.
Right.
And then I started picking up the Bible more, hitting the gym, which I created a habit while I was with her anyway. So I just started to just go hard on that. And so I just picked up those things because let's say if she ever did want to come back or work things out, right? A couple months from now or a couple weeks from now or whatever, I need to be mentally stronger. I need to be spiritually better, and then I need to be physically better as well too. And so I felt like that's what I need to do, and so I just went hard in all aspects of it, and it felt really good to cut everything out and get closer and really dive in. And the one thing that that did help me too is that pool night when we hung out at the pool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you asked me, hey, look, you get into the Bible a lot. Like, how do you feel about it? It's like, yeah, it's good. I'm learning a lot. I'm doing Genesis. I'm doing NLT version.
Yeah.
And it's better. I'm more engaged now, but I still get lost. It's sort of confusing. Where do you start? And then you told me to start with the Gospels or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that's where I felt like I'm really understanding. And then I watched Passion of the Christ for the first time, and it really puts it all together.
Bro.
And it's like I never had seen it, even as a kid.
You've
like,
never seen it?
No, they didn't let me watch it when I was a kid because it's so gory.
My mom and dad took me with my Nino, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the theater was hella packed.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat in the front. So I'm like this watching them crucify Jesus.
Yeah.
And I don't really know anything about God, but
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a horrible, sad story.
Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah, that movie's traumatizing.
It's a crazy.
Yo, leave it in the comments if
lot
you
of
think
blood.
that movie's crazy. I haven't been able to go back to that movie, man.
That's a lot of blood, but I'm excited for the
Resurrection.
The Resurrection, the new film that he's going to come out with, and I can't wait for that one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so that's sort of the story behind that, where I really dove into getting in it. But I think you played a big part in sort of like at least getting me on a place to start. And so if anybody's listening for the first time, or well, not the first time, but like if anyone's reading the Bible for the first time, I would highly recommend starting there. And I gave my sister a Bible. I gave a couple of my buddies a Bible too. And
That's awesome, man.
My coworker, we get along really well at work. I gave him a Bible as well. So I gave him like 4 Bibles out. And I always tell him,
beautiful,
like,
man.
Start in the Gospels and work your way forward.
Yeah.
And I gave him the NLT version, so it kind of resonate with them a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's I love to hear when they open up their Bible. I opened up my Bible today and I read this chapter, and it really resonated with me.
It's different.
Yeah.
Right? It's different than if you were to be like, did you watch the newest season of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Oh, did you watch Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Like, oh, did you like? Those are cool, but they're like little quick hitters.
Yeah.
But then when somebody says like, "Yo, I open my Bible," immediately you're like, oh.
That's
right?
cool. Yeah.
I think that's really cool, man. So the breakup is like what made you like really go into it, man. And was it the sadness that like drove you, or was it? You said something like along the lines of, Ryan, this is a repeated thing. Like, what are you gonna do different?
Yeah.
What was that repeated thing? Do you think that was happening?
I just, in a lot of my relationships, I didn't have the communication, right? That's one thing, right? And you sort of like shrug little problems off, and you don't really, you just don't really do what you need to do as a man to like make sure that your girl is heard, I guess you can say. So I guess that's one thing. And there's a lot of other issues that come up in there, but just as a guy or as Ryan, right? Like a lot of my past or whatever, and like I was never someone to really settle down, so I don't really have that relationship sort of knowledge, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Especially like long-term relationships, but.
Do you think that like a lot of your relationships were like based off of like physical attraction type things,
I would say, yeah.
or like a love language of like not the deep stuff, but like, well, let's go out on dates, let's hold hands, let's hang out, spending time together. That's what love is. That's what a relationship is. It's like
it was very surface level. I guess you can say it like that. Yeah. And so I didn't have that very deep connection with, like really getting in there and really like living together. It's a different dynamic, right? I never lived with somebody.
Yeah.
I have my house, but I never told them, hey, like, come over here and live here. Like, let's get a drawer, like get a dresser for you, type thing, right? So that was a different.
This is
thing.
your towel.
Yeah, it's your towel. Yeah, it's your towel. And you stick to that towel. But yeah, so I guess that's where I lost a lot of my knowledge. That I don't have a lot of knowledge there, and so it is a different dynamic, especially when you're with somebody that you really feel like you want to settle down with this person. And for me, that was the first time I had ever felt like that. So I was like, okay, this is a little different, and I was fighting that battle. And actually, one of her friends told me, it feels like the devil has a hold on you. And
Told you?
Yeah.
Damn, that's
And
scary.
yeah, it was scary. So and this is maybe a month after or so, and I was like, man, did the devil really have a hold on me? So I was looking back at that relationship, like towards that last 6 months or whatever, where everything started falling apart. I was like, maybe he did.
Yeah.
Maybe he was in my ear telling me things like, oh, just shrug it off and like, just do what you want to do. Type
Yeah.
things. And I really just listened to it because maybe that's what my brain was like tuned to listening to all the time, and it sort of fell back into comfortability instead of listening to God and like putting my problems with him and let him take care of the
man.
rest, right? So that was a big part of it. Yeah.
Do you also think, like, because this is how I feel, like when I look back at my past relationships and a lot of the mistakes that I did and a lot of the repeated patterns that I also had, right? Like one thing that I used to do really bad in relationships was like keep score,
Okay.
right? I would
Yeah.
keep score.
Yeah.
Be like, she comes to me with a problem. I'd be like, but I did this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
She's like, why do you always, you always have this ammo with you?
Yeah.
So whenever I bring something to the table, you unload on me and it's overwhelming. And I didn't like realize that about myself, right? But I say all that to say this is that like when I look back at my past relationships, I realize how hard it was to try to do these relationships without God.
Yeah.
And I know that's why they failed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't walk with God. I had no moral compass. So I was only going based off of what I think a man should be, based off of my parents' relationship. I would even study other relationships and be like, oh, and get a little bit of here, and there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was until I met Naomi and I really started getting into the faith and I started realizing, okay, what does God say a man is? What does God say a husband is? What a relationship should be? And I think, how I know, like following that standard now, that's the only reason why my marriage works now, man. And it's funny enough is God was also the answer to give me the strength to let go of a lot of the things that I used to be accused of my previous relationships. But yeah, man. So
I'm happy that you learned that though. That you're like, you jump into the relationship with Naomi and you learn that hey, okay, there was something I was doing wrong. How can I be a better man? How can I be a better husband? All this stuff. And that's I wish I would have did that right when I met her. Right. And so like, because I remember the night that I did meet her, I said to myself, I was driving on the way home and I was like, Ryan, don't screw this up. But it was like, I should have said, like, God help me not to screw this up. Why am I looking to self, like why am I looking at myself as God? Right.
Yeah. Because then you put it on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that because I was thinking about how when you felt like in the relationship you drifted to God, you drifted from God, you weren't going to church, you weren't in the Bible, you weren't like praying as much. I wonder if a part of you felt like, damn, this relationship is slipping. I got to do something to save it. I got to do this. I got to do that instead of going to our Heavenly Father to guide our steps.
Yeah.
And that's really tough, man. Yeah. I think us as men, especially when we really want the girl, will tend to step outside of ourselves to try to salvage the relationship, and it only ends up in disaster. I mean, I did the exact same thing in my past relationships too, man. Like when I felt the relationship slipping, it was like, all right, well, I got to be extra this. I got to be more attentive on that. And it was just like flood. Yeah. And then what sucked about that is when it didn't go my way, now I was resentful at the fact that I put all this effort into this and it didn't pan out my way.
Yeah. That's very interesting that you say that too. Like, I felt that distancing as well too, because some of the things that she was saying before we started having problems, I no longer heard. And so now I was saying, like when she was saying, oh, we're locked in, like you're done, player, like you're with me now, whatever type thing. And so I would counter it. I hadn't heard that anymore. And I would always tell her, like jokingly, like she would tell me, like, are we breaking up? Like, we're breaking up, aren't we, dude? Like, just like jokingly. But I find myself saying that a lot more towards the end. And then once it did end, then I was like, I felt like I was, that one movie Get Out, where he's like going down the hole.
Yeah.
I'm like reaching and grabbing to do everything and anything that I could. But and I was doing that. Like I was sending the flowers. I was giving the gifts. I was doing all these things because I was like, okay, look, I am changing. I am doing this thing. And I'm happy that I didn't have any resentment towards her because that she didn't accept all this stuff or wasn't coming back. I always said like, hey, look, I forgive you. I just forgive me. And if it doesn't happen, then I just have to learn how to accept that. And I just learned to accept it and really just continue to get deeper into my faith.
Yeah.
If it was happening, I would always say like, God, bring her back to me. Like bring her back to me. Like, and I was demanding for him to do it. Like you could do it right now. I
think
need
a lot of people do
I need that
yeah.
miracle. Everyone does this, right?
Yeah.
But we should really just like I learned to start saying now, and of course now you sort of lose all those feelings. It's been a long time. Like God, if it's in your will, like
that's good, man.
Lead,
that's
lead
key.
Her, lead me to whatever brings her back to me. Whatever, just instead of asking for it, just like if it's in your will, bring it back. And if it's not, then it's not in your will, and we got to do something else.
How are you feeling now about it?
I'm feeling a lot better. Right, I was crashing out. I think it's the new term now. I was crashing out at the beginning, but I'm feeling a lot better of it. But what helps me is praying. And it sounds so like cheesy, man, but I actually do pray for her a lot. I pray for like every night, and for her family, and I still have feeling for her. She's not a bad person, and with a lot of my previous relationships, it was easy to get over somebody, but when you don't hate somebody,
it's a little bit more
harder. It's harder, and it's hard to go through the feelings of like, oh, we don't talk anymore, type of thing. So I'm doing a lot better now, but I was crashing out before, man. So, but thankfully, I stuck to my guns with the whole alcohol thing stuff for my birthday, and then, but yeah, I'm a lot happier now. I do hold that space open. If something does work out or in the future where by some miracle that God gives me, right? That it does work out, but if not, then
so it's awesome if he brings her back to you, right? But are you also okay if he says no?
I don't have a choice. That's not my choice.
It's
not my choice to I can't blame God for it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? There's never been a time where I was resentful, or mad at God, right? There's never been a time where I was mad at God because all my life I feel like He's always taken care of me. He's always put me in the best places, always helping to make the best decisions, and He really gives you that free will, right? God gives everyone free will,
absolutely,
right? But the path that He gives you depends on that choice that you make, right?
Absolutely.
So He can tell you like, hey. Or you can be like, you can choose the good route, and He's gonna, bless you or whatever, and
His will,
right? And
yours,
or yours. You can take. I'm gonna deny God. I'm gonna say no to Him and turn my cheek. And He may not bless you. He may choose to bless you along the way, but at the same time, that's your will, and that's your choice. He's gonna love you regardless, but that's your choice.
It's your choice, and sometimes those choices have consequences.
They have consequences.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's
so. In September is like when it's really been like kicking off for you, bro. Like, what do you notice the difference between walking with God lukewarm versus now being like, nah, bro, like you're my homie every day. We talking.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, man, because I feel like like I said, all my life I've been blessed, right? And you don't see those blessings right away.
Absolutely.
You see them 3 months from now, or like, oh, this is why this happened. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's and I feel like when you're far from God, I feel like that he gives you those blessings to try to tell you like, hey, I'm here. Like I want you
little reminders.
Little reminders. I'm here. I'm calling to you. Like come closer. Find me. Right. And now that I'm close to Him now, I know that he's there. I don't have to wonder if He's there or not. I kind of know that. I know that He's there.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I feel like God doesn't want me to have. He's blessed me already all my life. The biggest blessing is Him dying for me, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest one.
Absolutely.
Right. So now I don't really look towards forward to a blessing. I don't really ask them for a blessing or anything like that. I know that they'll come, and
Yeah.
so it's cool because you sort of live in like a world where like I mentioned earlier, you don't want anything.
Yeah.
Like you sort of found it already, and you have it with him, right? So that's where I'm kind of at now. Like now, I just don't really care anymore. I just kind of like whatever happens I'm just going with the flow now.
It sounds like to me, it sounds like you're very on point with how I feel. I also don't necessarily look or ask for blessings because I also know that they're coming.
Yeah.
We were talking about God's will. I think that's the thing that I focus on the most is, one, allow me to follow your will. Make your will known to me.
Yeah.
I ask him, please make your will known to me. And then give me the strength to follow that will.
That's a good one.
Because I know myself. I'm still human. I'm still flesh. Even though you give me the knowing, my flesh is going to be like, go this way.
Go this way. Yeah.
The reason why I was even asking you what the difference was between walking lukewarm and walking with God, like with intention, is because I feel like I've been on this journey with him, and I only see positives. I only see greatness. I only see blessings, right? Even in times where it's struggle, even where there's times I have pain, I still find a way to rejoice and feel joy, right? And to me, that's a superpower, man. Because like when we were kids, I didn't have that, you know. Like when I hung out with you, it was dope. When I go home, I'm by myself again, and then I'm alone with my thoughts. And then like my history, bro. Like with me and my pops, like I was a super depressed kid, and I used to get into trouble sometimes, but I really wanted to ask your perspective on what it is walking with Christ now, because I really try to encourage everybody to actively seek a relationship with him. And a relationship is daily, a relationship is constant, rather than just, I go to church sometimes, or it's like, sometimes I'll peep the Bible, and it's like, I'm not saying that you're bad. Like, that's not bad. I'm not judging you. It's just like, I, as your brother, want so much more for you. And there's so much there's so much game in the Bible. There's so much, just moments to rejoice in life when you walk with God. And I love the fact that you have that, man, because as much as I'm out here trying to make disciples of others, it's really cool that God made a disciple of you without my influence. I'm like, oh, my homie is also doing it too, man. So with that being said, bro, like, what are some tips? What are some do's and don'ts that you would like recommend to somebody who's just starting or is considering like picking up the Bible, but they're like, like this is what Naomi and I get a lot, right? Like we get like, oh, do you read your Bible? It's like, I try to, but like, I don't have time. Yeah. Which is an excuse.
Yeah, it's an excuse.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I don't like that excuse.
I don't either.
I mean, it's 24 hours. It gives you 24 hours a day, right? I always lead with that. I seen that quote one time. He gives you 24 hours a day. Why can't you give?
I can't help but think of this, like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Who do you think gave you the time?
Yeah.
Right now.
Gives you the time.
Like, who do you think is giving you time right now? Who do you think is giving breath?
Yeah.
Like, you ain't got time to talk to him for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But so what are some do's and don'ts? What are some things that you felt like that maybe either you stumbled or made a mistake or maybe like confused God with?
Like you're saying like what are some do and don'ts for people that are just getting started? Like how should they get started?
Yeah, like some tips that you would recommend.
Well, I like you mentioned earlier, when you talk about God to just random people, you don't know who's gonna accept it or whatever, or be accepting of it. They might shoo you away or whatever, or they may be willing to talk to you about it, right?
Yeah.
So I would say to do as I did, because I do what I know is like go to church, find somebody that you see online, like, hey, they go to church or whatever, see if like they'd be willing to take you to church with them, or like, hey, can you? I'm new to this. Can you show me show me the way real quick? You know,
so be brave and bold in asking for help and guidance.
Be brave and bold. And if you really want to get started, dude, when you asked me to go to do this podcast, I was like so nervous when you asked me. I was like, okay, like what are we gonna talk about, right? Like what am I gonna say? I stutter a lot and I say a lot and like And
You're doing great, man.
I was actually talking to Steve. I was like, I do cuss sometimes, right? I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, I gotta learn how. I gotta say learn not to
Not
cuss.
curse,
Like,
yeah. It happens, bro.
yeah,
It
it happens, yeah.
happens. Yeah, like my homie Oscar was here. He was cussing up a storm.
yeah.
But it's like we're not perfect people.
Yeah.
We're not going to be judging people based off of their tongue
Yeah.
when they're in the middle of their journey.
Yeah, yeah.
I heard it been put this way. It's how could I judge a tree that's still bearing fruit?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah, that's a
right.
good
And
one.
that's a lot. It really helps me, right? When I feel my flesh wanting to look at people and judge and put myself in this self-righteous place, I'm like, bro, like their tree is still bearing fruit.
Yeah.
Have some mercy because he has mercy with you all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't go through that kind of
Yeah.
thing, but you go through some other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah, you get some other type of feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say pray about it. And
That's
there's
big.
There's a lot of power in prayer, and you hear that quote, you see that quote all the time. There's a lot of power in prayer, but I ask for God to like, hey, give me the words to talk about today. Like, just give me the patience and the comfortability and the courage to like be here.
Yeah.
And I'm not a shy person at all. Like, I
Right.
don't know why I'm so nervous, but like, but I just had naturally have an anxiety. So if you see my leg moving, it's not
No,
because
you're
I
good,
have
bro.
anxiety. So I
You're
naturally
good.
move it. But yeah, a lot of power in prayer. So just like asking God for what you want, and he'll give that to you. And like I said, you may not see that blessing right away. You're not gonna wake
Yeah.
up the next day and have a 6-pack and massive arms, right? But if you stick at it and you just like let it go, he'll show you that blessing, somewhere along the line. But I just I would say start there. Start with a prayer. Say, God, show me how to get closer to you. And believe me, he'll reach out to you. He'll
Yeah.
show you.
Yeah.
And you never know. You might have intention of asking someone to take me. Can I go to church with you?
Yeah.
And somebody just might reach out and be like, hey, do you want to go to church on Sunday or whatever? So
Yeah,
you never know.
absolutely. It's funny that God works that way, man, because you talk about prayer. You're absolutely right. I think there's a hell of a lot of power in prayer, and I think I've been really understanding that concept a lot more now, as I've walked this journey. Do you have any hard-hitting lessons that God taught you about yourself that maybe either brought you to tears or just made you feel like, damn?
Oh, hard-hitting lessons. Oh man, I don't know if I have any hard like that I can think of right away. Well, actually, wait, hold on, pause. This is going back. Yeah, so I got the comment one time that I was too godlike. One time,
Really?
yeah. I and maybe it was because I had like a strong, and this was back in my relationship. I reference that a lot because that's where I found a lot of my, that's where I learned a lot about myself.
Of course.
And like this is why I'm here today, right? So I got the comment that I was too godlike and too on a pedestal. I put myself on a pedestal, and so yeah, I just
Did that bug you because a part of you felt like maybe you were?
yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like I was becoming someone that I really wasn't. Like I felt like I was being somebody that I wasn't. I wasn't myself. And so to hear that comment and to feel like I'm better than everyone else like around me,
Yeah.
that wasn't a good feeling because I know I'm not I'm not perfect.
Right.
And even at work, I
Right.
say don't score me a perfect 10 because there's always something that could be worked on,
Improved on.
right? Yeah. And I'm not a perfect person by any means. I made a ton of mistakes in my life, and so, but like I said, God will bless you with something that you really, really want. But if you turn your back on Him, then He will take it away just as quickly as He gave it to you. And I firmly believe that. And I think that's where it sort of brought me from that high horse right back down to earth and be like, okay, I really wanted this. He took it away from me. He lost it. And it wasn't because He doesn't like me, but He's just trying to say, hey, look, like let's get
It's
it
just
back.
I realize, man, like sometimes when God takes things away, it's not because He doesn't like us, and it's so messed up that we have that perspective. Like that's our first thought. It's like, oh, like, yeah,
like
exactly.
we blame Him. We come like.
And when in reality, He's just like, son, it's just it ain't good for you.
Yeah.
Like I know what's good for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard for us to like really accept.
Yeah.
you said earlier, you just said right now, you're not perfect and you've made a lot of mistakes. One thing I do find a lot of my brothers and sisters doing is that when they reflect on those past mistakes, they condemn themselves a lot.
Yeah.
Have you gone through that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
you have.
So yeah.
And what does God tell you when it comes to you condemning yourself? What is your relationship with God then? What are your conversations like when you're thinking about the things that you regret?
Yeah. I really just ask him for forgiveness. And I know that he forgives me, right? He died for my sins. He's forgiving me 100 times over, right? But that's one thing that I like. When I speak to him, like, man, just like, I know I did really bad things. Like, I know I lusted after girls, and I wasn't the best feelings wise. Like, I didn't really care about a lot of people's feelings when I was doing all that stuff. High school, even after high school, I would say too. But I would always say, like, man, just forgive me for everything that I've done. And I wouldn't say that I would be considered a bad person, but I'm not like out there like stealing or anything like that. It was just like, it was just my addiction with like wanting to talk to every single girl that I wanted to, to be with, right? So, and so, yeah, I just ask God for forgiveness on that. And that's one thing that I do think back, like, okay, if there's a reason why I'm being punished, this is probably the reason why, right?
Oh, wow.
Like the karma type of thing, which, who if you believe in that, great, whatever. But yeah, that's what I feel like. Yeah.
That's one of those things in this walk with Jesus, man, that has been really difficult to not do, which is self-condemn. And not only do I go through it, but then like when I see everybody else go through it, it's just one of those messages that have been on my heart, which is why I wanted to ask you, because I think, as Naomi and I continue to have guests, I think that's one question I'll universally ask.
Yeah.
Because if we all go through it, I think it'd be a really good idea to hear how everybody gets through it with God. Yeah. Because then the more information you have of how to get through it, it only helps you and helps kind of alleviate that kind of pressure. You mentioned lust, bro. Let's talk about lust.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because like my wife is here, right? But like I can't. When guys talk about it, it's different, right? And I thought I had told you, I think it's really a good idea for you and I to talk about lust, especially for the young gentlemen who watch, because I've talked about this before. Like I was hella addicted to porn, and I didn't even know I was addicted to porn. It was something that I did as a routine. And I was like, addiction is routine. Yeah. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm addicted to it. I'm like, that's crazy. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I think our generation fell into it without even really knowing because of technology. Yeah. Right? It's in the palm of our hand. Do you remember having to go to a movie rental store, and then they had a corner in the background with like beads? Yeah. And you had to do like a walk of shame. Like nobody ever went through there. Right? Because it's embarrassing. Yeah. And then now it's in the palm of your hand, and you're just like, I got the other palm free. Right?
That's a good,
And we do it in secret, bro. And I think because it's just so easily accessible, I think our generation got so desensitized to it.
Now it's more.
Now it's all over
open.
The place, right?
You got the OnlyFans links. You got everything, right?
Dude,
so
it's everywhere. It's promoted. Yeah. It's encouraged, and when I read the Bible, man, like when I read from Old Testament, I started in New Testament, then I went to Old Testament, but I'm like, yo, God's talking about lust throughout the entire book. Yeah. And I've realized, I'm like, oh, this is a battle for men. Yeah. Like from the beginning, like lust is a battle for men. And I take it very, very, very seriously, man, because again, I didn't even know. Like it was so oblivious to me. Not only did I not know, but I thought, oh, this is normal until I got into my relationship with my wife, and I'm like, yeah, no, this actually is not normal.
Yeah, and some people continue that in their relationship.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
Well, I think it's a little weird. Not even a little. I think it is weird. I'm just gonna be bold about it. I think it's weird. So yeah, man, let's talk about lust. Like, we obviously battled about it when we were kids. Like, how do you deal with lust now that you're walking with God super strong and like in your faith?
Yeah, so if anybody knows me that watches, I don't know.
The
how
mic
many
a little bit
people-
closer, yeah.
If anybody knows me that watches this, right? They kind of know, high school, like Ryan, the player type of guy, and so yeah, I had the same sort of issue too, right? I was watching porn. I would have my PSP loaded, with a bunch of porn, right?
And I
And
used to download that shit from
yeah,
LimeWire.
yeah. That's bad. We're
Horrible.
really aging ourselves. When you said video store, I was like, oh,
Video,
dang, dude. Yeah.
videos, video 48.
Yeah,
video,
we're right there by
24, yeah.
Fashion Fox and the Shakies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, I battle with that too, and it did become a lot more easily accessible once you get into like the phones and technology and stuff like that. So especially with the iPhone, you're sitting late at night and can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
How am I gonna go to sleep? Well, I could just do this and then watch it real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm a man, right? I have my moments of temptation, and it wasn't until like maybe a couple years ago where I was like, I just don't feel good doing it. Like if I were to masturbate, and I just don't feel good after I do it. Like I feel guilty, and that was around the time where I started, I guess, to go to church and really get a little bit deeper into my faith, and so. Now when I have those moments, I wish I would have brought this quote that I seen on X or Twitter, and but I can't remember exactly what it said, but like it was something about Jesus or whatever, and like, but if you have those thoughts, think about Jesus and like what
On
he
the
did
cross,
for you on the
yeah.
cross and how he died for you, right?
Yeah.
And are you really gonna do this? It was something along those lines,
Yeah.
and so I pick up my Bible. And
That's good.
I pick up my Bible and I start reading. And even if I haven't read for the day, or if I did already read for the day, I just continue off where I'm going or
Right.
on the book. I gave my boss, he's a Christian as well too. I gave my boss this little Jesus, and people put him around the campus at the hospital. And so I gave one to him, and he goes, "You gonna be here tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow." And so he came the next day. And he brought me one of those like anxiety crosses. So it's like shaped like your thumb. So you like rub it.
Okay.
And I found myself doing that.
When you had the urge.
When I had the
Oh,
urge,
wow.
or like when I have the urge really, like, or if I'm just have anxiety for the day, if I'm really thinking about something. And there's like a little printed heart in the middle of it, in the middle of the cross, and it's about worn off already, which is at least I know I'm using it. But I found myself either doing that or like finding something to do with my hand, finding something to distract me, or reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And I just would say that those are my main three things that I found.
That's good, man. I like, since we're on the topic of porn, like I think this is also very important. Like the reason why I also advocate to like not be watching porn, bro, is I feel like porn distorted how I viewed women. Do you feel like that same thing?
Makes them feel like lower than you, like you're kind of like degrading in a way.
Not so much lowering or degrading them. It's I have a very vivid imagination.
Okay.
So if I saw somebody. I'm like,
You're like,
oh, they kind of look like that person that I just watched.
Like comparison.
And then having lustful thoughts, right? Yeah. And I didn't realize I was doing that until I had stopped watching porn, and I was like, oh damn, like this is detrimental. I didn't realize the toll and the effect that it had on me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's important for like men to understand. It's like, bro, the things that you watch it's just a completely. I heard it being put this way. It's like, when you watch porn, what you're doing is you're training your mind to follow a distorted version of sex. And sex is a beautiful thing that God created, right? But we're training ourselves to not only see this distorted version of it, but what makes it worse is that when a man watches porn and like masturbates, he does it in secret. Right? Typically he does it in secret. Right. Like you said, you're at home. It's on my PSP. Nobody can tell, right? Yeah. I'm secret. Yeah. So then your body starts getting addicted to that high of doing things in secret. Yeah. And the real danger with that is like, man, if you're willing to get high off of that secret, what else are you willing to do in secret? And then that's the only reason why I bring this up to like the young men who are listening, because we've seen how the repercussions that it took on our lives. Yeah. And I just want to save you know, you young men out there from ever going down this like path of shame, or just honestly to save you from the headache of even having to have the discipline to not watch porn, or having the discipline to not masturbate. Speaking about masturbation, the Bible doesn't clearly state anything about masturbation, right? And like I can see how some people can kind of find a loophole in there and be like, oh well, the Bible doesn't say it.
No.
But for me, I also attached not masturbating as well, because what it was it's still appeasing to the flesh.
Yep.
And I don't want to give my flesh any victories. Because I don't know about you, man, but I know that when I was like in those days of heavy addiction, like there were times where I didn't watch porn just because I was addicted to it, or I didn't masturbate because like I wanted to masturbate. I would do it because I was stressed.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like hella stressed with like bills or life or whatever, and I'm like, how do I forget about this?
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, like, when I would start feeling a stress response in my life, I would get like horny, and I'm like, yo, why?
Yeah.
This is the wrong spot
Yeah.
to do it in, man. And so I say that to just kind of give my testimony, like, yo, there are things that happen biologically that you don't even know that you're doing to yourself. And it does take discipline, and more importantly, if you're trying to stop this addiction to either porn or masturbating, guys, like, involve the Lord. I know we talked about how this is all done in secret, but like nothing is secret to the Lord. Like he was there watching every single time.
Yeah.
And
That's what I think about too. Like,
Right?
like I'm disappointing because I don't like to disappoint people.
Ro-
So I'm, like,
exactly,
disappointing them,
exactly,
like,
exactly. And I think it's just so beautiful how much it just points to how much grace and mercy God has for us, because even though we're doing this vile act, He still allowed us to be able to be clean, washed, and refined, for us to be able to sit here in this podcast and be able to warn the future generations of like, yo, that's all Lucifer's games and tactics, man. Like how I stated before, from the beginning of time, like Lucifer has used lust against men.
It's the weakest, or one of the weakest chains in the link.
It's the weakest chains, man.
Yeah.
Like how many like cliches do we hear from women about like all men are dogs and this? And it's like, yo, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
It's true. Like we're dog, but what makes us dogs is the fact that we can't control it. But men of God have the power of the Spirit to be able to control that part of themselves.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot actually. Like it is very hard, right? Because you're surrounded by it. You go on Instagram, and the first thing you see, unintentionally, you could be with a group of people, but you see a girl half naked in a bikini or whatever.
Or
right?
you go to the damn search bar and like your feed is filled with it, and I'm like, I've purposely liked puppies, cats, all these
I'm hitting
people
not
doing
interested on the things, and it still pops up.
and it still pops up. Yeah, I hate Instagram.
Yeah, I know. I hate that algorithm. I wish you can like change all the preferences, but I'm constantly hitting not interested.
Right, but you're absolutely right. It's everywhere, man.
Yeah, it is everywhere. You get that temptation. So it is very hard to kick that like sort of temptation. You like the stress factor is a big thing too.
Yeah.
But I found that since I've gotten closer, and since I've been reading my Bible, and I've gotten closer to like finding myself, but also finding peace, right? Just having the peace.
That's big, man.
I've noticed that it's a lot easier to think about something else, or not even have those thoughts at all, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I don't work, and that that part of me will never work when I'm involved sexually with a woman, right?
Right.
But
you save it for that.
For that, I save it for that
your moment with God.
That moment, right? And like I'm not seeing anybody right now, so I'm not doing any of that. And so I just, once I found peace and just that silence in your head, that's where I found the easiest to say no to doing that, like masturbating or whatever, and looking at porn, watching porn, and it became easier to unfollow all the lustful thoughts and stuff on Instagram to see the women that are on there. So it becomes easier to do that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a big part of it. So the closer you become, I think the stronger your mind becomes.
The closer relationship you get with God, it's like that thing that you said, like, I don't want to disappoint God.
Yeah.
And so this will disappoint him, and it's like, I'm not going to disappoint Pops.
I hate disappointing people. That's a big thing that I always go back to not wanting to disappoint my grandpa. And so every choice that I've made in my life was like, okay, will my grandpa be proud of me about if I did this? And he doesn't even know that I think of him like that. Like, but it's just a big part of my life, and I just wanted to, make him proud, because I remember
Yeah.
hearing comments like, oh, well, you know, your cousin did this, and like, I'm not so fond of that, you know, what he did. So I'm like, oh, I don't know, I hope he never thinks of me like that, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I've always wanted to make, you know, my grandpa proud, and so yeah.
So now that you know you're doing your best to walk the narrow path, man, like how do you feel about other people's opinions about you in the past? Or yeah, how do you feel about other people's opinions in the past? And do you get any kind of flack of like, oh, he's a Jesus boy kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or do they say like, oh, like I know Ryan, he was horrible, like
Yeah.
Jesus doesn't save him, like
Yeah.
that's whack.
Yeah, you know, I'm a good taker of like constructive criticism. So if people come to me and say, look, hey, look, I know you, I know your past, you're not like this, or sometimes I'll slip, I'll say something that I shouldn't be saying on Instagram, like I'll get judged off that, right?
Yeah.
Or somebody's judging me, and
Or they'll wait for you to slip now because
Yeah.
they know where you're
They
trying
know
to go,
from-
and
yeah.
they'll be like, see, he
yeah,
didn't change.
yeah, he hasn't changed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
That happened to me actually recently, right? So, but I'm good at taking that and apologizing and like saying, okay, I made a mistake. And
Yeah.
it's all about knowing the mistakes that you make and owning up to it. And I think that's a lot to do with like accountability and like you being a man, right? You own up to your mistakes and
Yeah.
you fix them. But yeah, I have gotten that, and I always say like I'm not perfect. Like I'll never be perfect, and I will slip up. And
Yeah.
but the what I want you to see, and the fact that you're even calling me out on it, what I want you to see is that I am changing, or I've changed, or I'm trying to change.
Trying to change.
And so if you notice enough to call me out on stuff that I have in my past, then whatever I'm doing is working for
Yeah.
myself. I am changing.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like a elbow to the face for them, but not wanting it to be like that. It's kind of like a jab in the face to them. Not wanting to actually jab them in the face or whatever, but silently, it's a victory for me, I guess you can say.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like the fact that you can even compare an old version to a new version of me shows that, yo, I'm actually trying.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to right those wrongs. I'm
Yeah.
trying to not be that person
Yeah.
anymore because you don't agree with who you were back then.
Yeah. And that goes with like the dating life now too, is like I just don't go out and find somebody to hook up with or whatever the case may be. I actually am trying to find somebody to actually, like, you know, create a life with,
Yeah.
right? And so I posted a video about this recently too. Like, you can go and hook up with any girl that you want to. Why don't you just do that? And it's like, well, I want the next person to be my wife. I want the next person to walk with me on my journey to Christ, right? And we put Christ first, and then everything else comes after that. And as long as we put Him first, then we can do it, right?
That's key, man.
Yeah.
Question. When you do find that person and you do date,
Yeah.
do you plan on being intimate before marriage?
You know what? That's a really good question,
Yeah.
right? And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard, man. And I thought about this too, right? And I would say I don't have the answer that I want to tell you is like, yeah, I'm gonna wait. We're gonna date for 2 years, or we're gonna be together for 2 years, and we're never going to do that. And you know what? I can't confidently say that will happen. I think we'll have sex before marriage. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that. And it's not just me, and that's just a hard thing, because you want to be intimate with each other, and you
Yeah.
want to explore that sort of thing. And yeah, I don't think that we would not do it.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is a hard question, because I think I kind of see why God doesn't want sex before marriage, is because when you remove that intimacy, that specific intimacy part of the relationship, you really start to discover, like, am I really with this person or not?
yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
you don't have that option there. Like, do I really like her talking to me like this? Can she really tolerate me talking to her like that? Can she deal with my BS? And I think that's why God does that, man, is because, like, He really wants you to be like, yo, like, this is the person that's going to be with you through thick and thin, through sickness and in health,
Yeah.
not based off of sex, but based off of the actual true companionship, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like you can have sex with God,
Right.
but you have this deep relationship with Him, and I think that's the type of relationship He wants you to have with like your spouse and the woman that He gives you, or the man that He gives you.
Yeah.
Is He really wants you to build that relationship and go through tension
Yeah.
and go through struggle and be like, yo, am I really about that? Am I willing to be humble enough to submit my own ego for this person and work on the problem?
Right.
So I know that's tough, man. But I think when you tell me you are dating somebody, I think I will add that to my prayers. Like, yo, give Ryan the strength to be able to withstand that, because I think it will definitely give you more confidence in knowing that this is the right one for me.
Right. Right.
You know, because then you can actually say, I'm not with this woman only because of sex.
Right.
In fact, I had no sex with her at all, and
Yeah.
I want to be with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what makes me want to be with her.
Sort of
you
like,
know?
and you hear a lot of guys now, like, they say, you can't buy the car without driving it.
Yeah, which is
Like,
stupid.
which is like a stupid thing, right? Or like, yeah. So I've heard that
It's like
a few times.
it's a human. We're not talking about cars.
Yeah, we're not trying to see how many miles you have. But
Yeah, I was like-
that's and to start off a relationship like that is crazy.
It's
right?
crazy
So-
because like now, at the end of the day, what you're saying is you're treating that woman like an object.
yeah, now
she's not an
you're
object.
objectifying
That's
her,
your partner.
Yeah, it's your partner.
You
Right.
know?
And so yeah, I've heard that before. So that's not to say like if she wanted to do that too, like if we both agreed, because
Yeah.
I would like to find a godly woman that goes to church and prays every day, and instead of running to someone else or alcohol for problems or something like that, she runs straight to God, right?
Yeah.
I would like to find someone like that. So if she wanted to say like, hey, look, we can't be intimate. Like we have to hold ourselves, back.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I don't want to be with you or I don't find you attractive.
Yeah.
But I think this is a sacred thing. If she wanted to do that, hey, I'm all aboard, right? Like that's great. And same thing goes for me, because if she is a godly woman like she said she was, then I can confidently go up to her and say the same thing to her, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it is like a mutual thing, and I wouldn't mind doing that with somebody if somebody did it. I'm practicing
I
that.
encourage
now,
it,
right?
man. I definitely encourage it, man, because like, you know what it'll also do is, you talked about how one of the things that you realized about yourself in this past relationship was like you were lacking certain things in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So the way I see it is, if you were to actually remove that sex part of it, you have all the time in the world
Yeah.
to now find those things.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a good point. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, make you, it would almost in a way make you focus on the things that you're sort of lacking and sort of that you need to like tune up a little
Yeah,
bit. So
yeah. And the
like
thing
that.
is like, when I stopped like watching porn and stopped masturbating, and my lust is like to a minimum. I still fight lust, right? We're men. We're always
Yeah.
gonna fight lust, but now I'm prepared to fight lust.
it's a lot easier now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier now. It wasn't easy in the beginning.
Wasn't
it was
easy.
rough,
Yeah,
bro.
it was rough. Yeah.
rough. I was watching that every day,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
like, nah,
Yeah.
cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
Yeah. But with the power of God, and God's mercy, He allowed me to get through it. But I say this to say that is like, even that whole concept of like, you can't buy a car unless you test drive it. That's just a narrative that us as men have been given.
Yeah.
Since we were a kid. It's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's in celebrities and rappers, like
The songs that we listen to, which have a huge influence. Like,
exactly. All this, it's like it's just this narrative that we've been given, that you have to have sex before marriage, or you have to figure out if you two are compatible.
Right.
Which I say now, and I would teach my son this, is like, that's BS. It's bogus.
Yeah.
Because you and I are living testament now. Like, we don't watch porn, and we don't watch and we don't masturbate, and like, yo, that's easy.
Yeah.
So if I date somebody, it's not gonna be as hard if I'm already been refining myself, been denying my flesh that.
Yeah.
And that's what it really is. That's what it really comes down to. It's like you're denying your flesh of what it really wants.
Yeah. And if you can do it with like your porn addiction, I can do it with like my lust for women.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
A lot of people can do it,
A lot of
yeah.
people can do it, right?
Yeah.
And it might be easier for some, and it might be hard for some, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's very doable.
But with God, anything is
Yeah,
possible,
you can
bro.
do that,
Like,
yeah.
and that's the other thing too, man. It's like, I thought this was gonna be a struggle to have to get over. But then I realized how powerful God was. I'm like, oh, you made this easy.
Yeah.
Like I thought this was gonna actually be something that was gonna bug me,
Yeah.
and like really be on my mind a lot. And I'm like, oh, like it's actually not that crazy of a thing, but that only comes with like building the relationship with God,
Yeah.
right? And getting in your word and knowing Him.
Yeah.
I
I want to throw this out there too. Is like I stopped actually doing a lot of things before I started doing major things. So instead of going cold turkey like you did, I mean, it sounds so like small, right? But you'd be surprised at what, like, just cutting out soda or cutting out McDonald's. If you start to understand in your head, like, okay, I can cut these things out for years, right? And so now let's move on to something more challenging, more like
stack your
bigger.
wins.
Yeah. So that's where it started to build off from too. Like I look back at, I haven't eaten McDonald's in a long time. I do have soda, but I try not to. It's very rare, and when I do, I splurge. Like I had 3 sodas back to back this weekend. A little cans of Squirt, so good. But as soon as it touches your lips, and it's like. I like chips too. Like I'll do like a healthier chip. I won't do like the seed oil chips and like cut all that inflammatory stuff out. So when you start eating healthier and creating those better habits, I feel like you you want to look for bigger challenges and like bigger wins. And so that's where you should like start. At least start small. Yeah. Work your way up a little bit. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty sick.
Damn, bro. So yeah, we've been going for like an hour and a half. I think we.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it.
It's cool, right? Just, dude, it's chill, hella chill. But yeah, man, I'm super proud of the fact that that you've come to God, and to be honest, man, it makes me hella happy that I have a friend that I can talk to about this with, especially an old friend.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited with the journey that God has us for, bro. I'm just truly grateful that I get to call you my friend, and that we get to be in this part of our lives together, man.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought about when I was coming over here and I was driving, because I was like thinking like, what is he gonna ask me, and what can I talk about? And so I rehearsed some questions in my head, and some answers. But I thought about this too. Is like I'm happy that, like I said, we had those seasons in our life, and like this season is bringing us closer to God. And this is brand new to us. Like we've never talked about this aside that one like a couple months ago. Yeah. But we never talked about religion. We never talked about God. We never talked about who you think God is or what you think God is, right? So this is like our first time really talking about it, which I think is which is really cool.
I love it, man. Thank you for coming, bro.
You're welcome, dude.
I appreciate it. I love you. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that was a useful conversation. I know it wasn't really much of like a lesson how we do, but had a lot of fun, man. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm also going to put Ryan's Instagram if y'all want to follow him and talk shop with him. Naomi and I talk about how this is all about a community. So he's one of our brothers who's in the community. And yeah, guys, we hope you have a great week. Go out and get your godly gains.